Welcome, esteemed gladiators of the economy, to the investment models, or as like called to how to make money while pretending to save the world. As the title boldly declares, investment is the bedrock of economic growth. It's the inception dream layer of our economy where resources are channeled into productive assets, creating well more assets. Investment models, they're not fashion models. These are the ones which wear no makeup, just a mask of microeconomics. Alright, before we go too deep into the rabbit hole of capital and return, let's take a quick glance at our flight plan today. Consider this your classified mission briefing or perhaps the table of contents for your most economic thriller you'll ever witness. Let's start. Now that we know what we are going or where we are going, let's secure the scene with the proper introduction. Why are we even bothering with investment models? Well, dear friends, in the grand theater of economics, investment isn't just a supporting actor, it's a leading role, the MVP, the engine of economic growth. It's a critical process by which the economics channel their resources into productive assets, essentially laying their groundwork for future prosperity. Think of it as planting seeds so you can harvest a bountiful crop of GDP tomorrow. Isn't just about building bridge or factories. It's about um, fostering job creation, fostering innovation, and enhancing the overall productivity. Public investment. This is where the government, with all its wisdom and infinite resources, decides to splash some cash out. Think of it as the government playing Monopoly, but instead of building hotels on a boardwalk, they are building roads, railways, power plants. It's capital expenditure undertaken by the government, and those ever so efficient public sector government spending on roads, schools, and hospitals. That's public investment. Imagine father building a house hoping the kids will settle down. Same sentiment here, but create infrastructure, attract private sector enterprises. Why do they do it? Crowding in private investment. It's like setting up a fancy buffet. The government builds the infrastructure, reduces risk, and suddenly private players are like, oh, look at all the tasty profit. It's the economic version of if you build it, they will come from the field of dreams. Boosting aggregate demand, especially when the economy is doing its best impression of a sloth. Government spending on is like Iron Man stimulating growth and employment, addressing market failures. Because let's be more serious for a moment. The private sector isn't always keen on building roads where the returns are, shall we say, less than astronomical. Enhancing competitiveness and inclusive growth. Building robust infrastructure means lower cost, better logistics, and everyone gets to play a bit fairer. It's giving everyone a cheat code for the economy. But even the government, bless its bureaucrat heart, faces challenge. Fiscal constraints, high public debt, and deficits are like that annoying friend who always reminds you about your credit card bill. Its limits how much they can spend without resorting to more borrowing, which spoiler alert has implications. Implementation delays. This is where our mock seriousness comes in. Bureaucratic hurdles, land acquisition sagas that even make Game of Thrones look simple. Environmental clearances that take longer than the age of universe, and interministerial coordination that rivals herding cats is a recipe for delays and cost overruns. Sometimes public sector projects aren't exactly paragons of efficiency, and ensuring money actually turns into productive assets that requires robust appraisal, monitoring, and evaluation, or as I like to call it, actually checking if someone built the bridge or just pocketed the cash. That's the quality of expenditure. Now, the rock stars of capitalism, private investment. These are corporate titans, the individual entrepreneurs, the households, basically anyone who is in government deciding to build or buy new shiny machinery, build fancy building, or invest into cutting high tech edge. They are unequivocally the key drivers of economic growth in job creation and technological advancement. Their main objectives profit maximization. Because let's be real, no one starts a business to lose money unless they are running a very niche avant-garde art gallery. Capacity expansion. Gotta meet that ever-growing demand, right? More factories, more widgets, more everything. Technological upgradation. Because if you are not upgrading, you are becoming obsolete. It's like blockbuster trying to compete with Netflix. Eventually, you just vanish. Market share expansion, conquer new markets, dominate existing ones. It's risk the board game but with actual money. But even these titans have their Achilles heel, like demand uncertainty. After a global financial crisis, everyone gets a bit shy. Businesses are like, is anyone actually going to buy this, or will it just sit there collecting dust? Financing costs. High interest rates are the villain in this movie, making borrowing expensive and investment decisions harder. Infrastructure gaps. Imagine trying to build a tech empire but your internet still runs on a dial up. It impedes operation. Ease of doing business. While things are improving, land acquisition, environmental clearances, and contract enforcement, we can still feel the navigating a swamp in quicksand. It's a bureaucratic obstacle course. The unholy public private partnership model. And it's where the government realizes it can't do everything, teams up with private entity. It's a long-term contract, a bit like marriage, but with more lawyers and hopefully less of drama. PPPs is India's arranged marriage between Sarkar and private sector. Government brings the land policies, private sector brings tech and money. Together they build airports, highways, and chaos. The advantages are resource mobilization. PPPs are the superheroes of finance, attracting private capital to bridge that pesky infrastructure financing gap. Efficiency and innovation. Private sector involvement often means better project management, cost effectiveness, and innovative solutions. Risk sharing. Sorry. Timely project completion and incentives mean projects get done faster and services are actually good. Imagine that. Focus on core competencies. Government can focus on policy making while the private sector handles the nitty gritty. It's like a well oiled machine if the machine frequently gets bogged down in paperwork. Disadvantages. Complexity and high transaction costs. These contracts are so complex they make a Rubik's cube look like a toddler's toy. Lawyers, financial experts, everyone gets a piece of the pie, leading to high transaction costs and endless negotiation. Higher cost of capital for private sector. Private money isn't free. It often comes at a higher cost than government borrowing, potentially increasing the overall project cost. They are not doing this for the charity after all. Lack of flexibility. Long term contracts can be rigid as a concrete block. Try adapting to new technology or sudden shift in change. It's like steering an oil tanker with a teaspoon. Public perception and political risk. Sometimes PPPs can sometimes be viewed with suspicion. Are they selling off our public assets? The public cries. Meanwhile, politicians worry about user charges and transparency. It's a constant tightrope walk. Now hold on to our hats because PPP isn't just one flavor, it's a whole ice cream parlor of models, each with its own quirks and conditions. Build, operate, transfer. This is classic private entity bills. Operates for a period and then proof transferred it to the government. Think highways and toll roads. The advantage, private sector takes on demand and operational risk, but the disadvantage is high financial risk if traffic projections are as accurate as a fortune teller. Build, own, operate, transfer model. Similar to BOT, but the private entity actually owns the project during the concession period. It's like having a really long term lease with eventual mandatory buyback option for the government. Often seen in power plants, same but owns it during the period. Build, own, lease, transfer. Here, the private entity builds, owns, and then leases it to the government. After the lease, ownership transfers. Think railway projects or specialized equipment, because who doesn't love a good lease to own a massive infrastructure? Annuity model. This is where the private developer builds and maintains, and government says, don't worry about the traffic, sweetie, we'll give you fixed payments. The government bears the revenue risk, great for roads where traffic is unpredictable, like that one road to nowhere. Its advantages is less risk for the developer, but the disadvantage is the government becomes the proud owner of all demand risk. Engineering, procurement, construction, EPC model. This one not strictly a PPP, but it's often the mix. The government directly funds it and a private contractor just builds it. No financing, no operating, no maintenance. Think of it as a hiring a very specific, highly skilled handyman. Full government control, fixed price contracts, but the government bears all the risk. It's like a Batman without bat utility belt. All the responsibility, none of the fancy gadgets for risk mitigation. Government does all the funding. Next comes the challenges in the implementation of PPP. This is where the part of the movie where everything goes wrong. Inadequate proper project preparation. If you plan poorly, you plan to fail. Unrealistic traffic projections, insufficient due diligence, that's a recipe for disaster and often leads to projects failing faster. Land acquisition and clearances. This is the ban of every infrastructure project. Delays in acquiring land, environmental clearance, and forest clearances are major impediments. It's like trying to build a skyscraper on a quicksand, costly and time consuming. Financing issues. Banks get shy about lending long term for risky projects, especially after a few bad experiences. It's asking for a loan from a friend who you burned once or twice. Lack of robust dispute resolution mechanism. When things go south, they will. If you don't have a quick way to resolve disputes, projects get stuck in litigation longer than a villain's monologue. Capacity building. Government agencies often lack the expertise to effective structure, negotiate and monitor these complex projects. It's like asking a librarian to run a special ops mission. Admirable, but probably not at all ideal. The hybrid model. And for now, our hero of the hour, at least in the Indian road sector, is the hybrid annuity model, or HAM. The model is like Avengers assemble of the investment, combining the best bits of EPC and BOT annuity models. It aims to balance risk allocation, making infrastructure projects attractive to private developers and lenders, because everyone loves a balanced diet, especially in finance. Key features. Hybrid structure. It's a mix and match. It's a custom built superhero build. Upfront payments. The government typically contributes 40% of the project cost during construction. Annuity payments. The remaining 60% is paid as semi-annual annuities over 15-20 years after the project is operational. Risk allocation. This is where the ham shines. The government takes the traffic demand risk and part of construction work. The private developer handles construction work for their 60% portion, maintenance and operational risk. It's a true partnership where everyone knows what they are responsible for. Advantages. reduced risk for developers. HAM makes projects more financially viable and attractive. It's like a magic wand for de-risking, increased bankability. More banks try to give, are open to give loans because of the reduced risk from the government. Faster project implementation. Less risk means more participations, means quicker projects, better quality and maintenance. Annuity payments are linked to performance, so developers are incentivized to maintain high quality. No more build it and forget it policies. Governments, now let's look into disadvantages. Government's financial burden. While it de-risks the private sector, it shifts a magnificent financial burden onto the government. It's like borrowing money from your parents. It's great for you, but they are still paying it. Payment delays from the government. Even HAM isn't immune to the classic land acquisition and clearance oaths. So sometimes payment gets delayed. If the government is late with the payments, the developer cash flow gets hit. It's like waiting for a paycheck, but it's always a week late. Maintenance quality issue. Ensuring actual quality over 2 decades. That's a marathon, not at all a sprint. HAM has been widely adopted in the highway sector model in particular because many new highway projects are being awarded under the HAM model, which contributes significantly to road infrastructure development across the country. Infrastructure financing. No money, no honey. So to fund the infra team, India brings in infrastructure financing. Development finance institutions. These are specialized institutions that provide long-term finance, especially for infrastructure, but let's face it, has a gestation period longer than an elephant's pregnancy. They fill the gap left by commercial banks who prefer quick returns, not decades-long commitments. Infrastructure debt funds. These vehicles provide long-term debt to operational infrastructure projects. They pool capital from institutional investors like insurance companies and pension funds, essentially giving these projects a financial second life. Infrastructure investment trust. These are like the mutual funds for infrastructure. They allow individual and institutional investors to directly invest in operational revenue generating infrastructure assets like toll roads and power lines. Real estate investment trust. Similar to InvITs, but for real estate, they own, operate, or finance income generating properties like office spaces, malls, and warehouses. The moment Prelims PYQ from 2023. This isn't just a slide, it's the Hunger Games arena for aspiring bureaucrats. Let's look into the answer. Consider the following statements. Interest income from the deposits in infrastructure investment trusts distributed to the investor is exempted from the tax, but dividend is taxable. InvITs are recognized as borrowers under the Securitization and Reconstruction of Financial Assets and Enforcement of Security Interest Act 2002. It's a question like a Vikram's character, stylish but tricky. Statement 1 says interest from InvITs is tax free. No, illada. It is taxable. So statement 1 is wrong. ECBI, InvITs are recognized under the borrowing securitization and in reconstruction of financial and enforcement of security interest tax. That is true. So option D is the correct answer. Statement 1 is incorrect and statement 2 is correct. It's like don't mess with ECBI rules or at least UPSC traps, because sometimes you fall for it. Now for the long-term cover, foreign direct investment. This isn't a fleeting affair, it's a long-term committed relationship between economies. FDI occurs when a non-resident entity invests directly in productive assets in a foreign country. This typically involves establishing new business, acquiring an existing company, or gaining a significant stake in a firm that confirms management control or significant influence. Key characteristics: long term perspective. Unlike other forms of foreign capital, FDI is characterized by sustained interest in the economic performance of the invested entity. Control influence. The foreign investor usually acquires a stake of large enough to exert control or significant influence over the management and operations of domestic firm. Now let's look into a PYQ format, which reference to foreign direct investment in India. Which one of the following is considered its major characteristics? It's an investment through capital instruments, essentially listed company. It's largely non-debt creating capital flow. It's the investment which involves debt servicing. It's the investment made by foreign institutional services in the government securities. UPSC threw this question in 2018 like a googly in a CSK match. The correct answer is option B, because UPSC loves repeating themes like Anirudh BGM, same beat but different tempo. Moving on with us, we have foreign portfolio investment. This form of foreign capital is characterized by its distinct nature compared to FDI. It involves non-resident entities investing in financial assets such as shares, bonds and other financial instruments, government securities or mutual funds, without acquiring management control or significant influence over companies. The characteristics: short term. FPI is highly liquid, allowing investors to enter and exit markets rapidly. This can lead to significant volatility in domestic and stock and bond markets. Yes, as you told, it brings in high volatility and high liquidity as well, making it free for investors to enter into and go out of the market easily. Now, external commercial borrowings. Our foreign capital model. External commercial borrowings. This represents loans availed by Indian companies and entities from foreign sources, primarily for commercial purposes. It's essentially accessing international financial markets for debt. Characteristic are debt creating. It creates debt because it borrows from different sources, which brings in more debt to the private entity or even the government as such. Variety of forms. They can take a form of bank loans, buyer's credit, supplier's credit, foreign currency, convertible bonds and more. End use restrictions. They have some restrictions as well, like they cannot be used for certain things. If they get the debt, if they get the external commercial borrowings for certain projects, only for that it can be used, not for others. And maturity is for a long term period, so that the project gets completed on time. Foreign capital. Because beyond the primary focus of foreign investment like FDI, FPI, ECB, foreign capital can also encompass other significant flows that contribute to India's external financing. NRI deposits. These are deposits made by non-resident Indians in Indian banks held in various foreign currency or rupee denominated accounts. NRIs often driven by family ties, investment opportunities or sense of contributing to their home countries, remit funds back to India. Foreign aid. It refers to financial assistance, grants or concessional loans provided by foreign governments, international organizations or even private foundations to developing countries like India. This aid is typically aimed at supporting development projects, humanitarian assistance, or budgetary support. These two components, NRI deposits and foreign aid, illustrate the diverse channels through which foreign capitals contributes to India's economic resilience and development, each with its unique characteristics and implications for the economy. And so we arrive at the conclusion of our exploration into investment models. We have transferred the intricate landscape of how capital is mobilized and deployed to fuel economic growth, from public investment, private sector participation, public-private partnership, national initiatives, and strategy integration of various forms of financial capital, ultimately evolving the interplay of these diverse investment models. And with that, we reach the final slide. Appreciating your attention and engagement throughout this detailed discussion on investment models. I hope this presentation has provided a clear and comprehensive understanding of various ways of capital is mobilized and deployed for economic development in India. Should you have any further questions or require additional clarification, please feel free to ask. Thank you once again. If you have survived this lecture without dozing off, you deserve 5 marks. 5 marks grades from UPSC. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Learning Through Thalaivar Way, because who else explains investment models like it's Lokesh Kanagaraj thriller. Thank you.